Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I have felt like a piece of me has been missing over the past week as I haven't been talking to you guys on a daily basis like we've done pretty much for the past 5 years plus. However, we're back hopefully with a bang, and as you can all imagine, we have a hell of a lot to cover. We're going to be starting things off with some geopolitical events taking place right now. I will try to stay as non-biased as possible. I'm going to reserve my opinion on this as much as I can, but I'm going to be looking at it through the context of how this is affecting the markets. And the truth is, not majorly. We may fly past oil and things like that. In fact, geopolitical events, and I'll show you a BlackRock paper on this, have historically been a very bullish thing for Bitcoin. And actually, you see the likes of Larry Fink and others promoting it as a unique diversifier for situations like this entirely, and to protect yourself against any one government or nation's actions. And I think given the fact, and we spoke about this on Friday, that all central bankers, Jerome Powell, interestingly talking about Bretton Woods now, do watch Friday's video, guys. Something monumental is coming, and crypto is a missing piece of that puzzle that is going to enable this new global system. But Jerome Powell talking about Bretton Woods. We looked on Friday at Christine Lagarde's comments, also talking about the run-up to Bretton Woods, how we're in a similar situation, and the fact that something is going to change. We will be flying by some comments from her today also in regards to the importance of digital currencies, which are going to be ran on, in my opinion, public distributed ledgers. And there's a major opportunity right here, right now, guys. And with this week of kind of reflecting, I've actually became significantly more bullish. Sometimes it's good to take a step back to be able to look into the fishbowl, because the fishbowl at the moment when it comes to crypto is quite a murky one, given retail sentiment. However, there's never been a better time to be interested in the cryptocurrency markets. If you don't want to be here, you don't need to. But I am telling you that this technology, the public distributed ledgers that we talk about today, are going to enable the new financial system and be worth, and we're talking about outside of Bitcoin, crypto's worth trillions of dollars in market capitalization. The entire monetary system and financial system is about to change and all go on chain. And actually, towards the end of the video, we're going to look at BlackRock's COO stating this exactly. We're also going to look at Bitcoin disrupting a $300 trillion bond market, which is suffering right now. And that's why everybody's talking. The thing that backs up the monetary system, being the bond markets, the treasuries, is suffering. There's an issue with it, just like there was an issue with the amount of gold that was backing up the US dollar previously in regards to what led to the Nixon shock. Similar thing is about to take place. There's an issue with the faith in the monetary system. And crypto, this trust layer that you can trust because no one government is in charge of it because they can't be trusted. So we're putting it back in the hands of the people. The old switcheroo happening again. So we've got a lot to get into. I hope you guys missed me as much as I missed you. Sit tight, guys. Let's get into it all. And let's start things off. European markets rebound. This is just a headline from CNBC. As Israel-Iran attacks continue. Rental down 6%. I think the fears with this are always, it's almost like some people want escalation. You know, social media, it depresses me at times. I don't watch mainstream news really, and I know that's very ironic bringing up an article from CNBC, right? I know, guys, we're not totally blind to some of the hypocritical things that we say, but we're all hypocrites, right? Let the first one amongst you throw the first stone at the sinner. I don't typically listen to these things because all over social media, all over the sort of news, it's all escalation, escalation, escalation. And I think there's prophecies out there that need to be taken into consideration in regards to that. But in my opinion, Iran and Israel, and this just is my opinion, have been going back and forth for a long time. And this is, you know, in the last year, talking about 2024, I had covered 2 events where this took place, and markets actually did remarkably well from it. And it seems heartless to sort of take the human element out of things and to look at it through the lens of the markets. But I really don't want to offer, I do have an opinion on this whole situation. I don't really want to offer it because I know you guys are here to deal with the markets and to certainly the cryptocurrency markets in wake of all this. But this is affecting the markets, and that's ultimately why we're covering it. However, geopolitical events have typically been rather bullish for the cryptocurrency space. This is a BlackRock paper where they highlight Bitcoin as a unique diversifier. And it looks at Bitcoin's ability, essentially, this is the S&P 500 gold and Bitcoin through major geopolitical events. It looks at Bitcoin's ability over 10-day returns and 60-day returns to recover from these events. And historically, geopolitical events have been a great time to buy Bitcoin. And I think that's going to be the case with this one. It's my opinion, and I could totally eat my words on this, that this isn't going to escalate into what people almost are touting on social media. It's a horrific event that's taking place. And my heart goes out to anybody innocent that's involved in this. To look at it through the lens of the markets, I really don't think it's largely affected them, despite the kind of sentiment towards this on Twitter and on the news. You know, the markets don't reflect that, and I think the markets will reflect escalation down the road, if that makes sense. And by down the road, I'm talking about in the more immediate time frame. I'm not talking years out. I'm talking more immediate time frames, because markets are good at pricing things in, and some people are a lot more privy to information than others, and often they have a hand in the markets also. So if you look at the S&P 500, it's still on the road to recovery. And I think it will recover. And I think despite these geopolitical events, we actually saw some pretty monumental inflows in regards to digital asset funds, so ETFs within America, more broadly around the world. I did a great interview with Duncan Moore, the head of, or the president of 21 Shares, talking about the HBAR ETF that was just launched. Digital assets defy geopolitical tensions with further inflows of $1.9 billion. Digital asset investment products saw $1.9 billion in inflows last week, marking the 9th consecutive week and a record year-to-date total of $13.2 billion. Bitcoin rebounded with 1.3 in inflows, while Ethereum saw 583 in inflows. Ethereum seems to be gaining steam recently. Its strongest since February, bringing its recent run to $2 billion, 14% of AUM. Region sentiment was positive, led by US by 1.9 billion, while altcoins like XRP saw 11.8 million and SUI 3.5 million also saw renewed investor interest. Now, of course, these don't have ETFs yet. That is all still to come. So excluding the fact that the financial system is going to run on chain and that transition is yet to take place, and there's going to be another Bretton Woods moment that kind of ushers that in, or another Nixon shock of sorts that ushers that in, I think that transition is actually more of an orderly one and gradual one than and we're starting to see it already with the tokenization of everything. Well, look what BlackRock's COO has to say about that. You know, taking that away, this asset class hasn't even been allowed to become that yet. And just last week or the week before, we looked at the fact the FCA, our SEC equivalent here in the United Kingdom, had essentially now said, okay, we're going to retract and allow ETNs, which are the equivalent of ETFs within the UK, which is brilliant for me that, you know, takes advantage of my stocks and shares ISA, and I'll be able to actually buy, I believe anyway, don't quote me on this, crypto products like ETNs or ETFs via that and get those tax benefits. And also more broadly than that, save money on the price exchanges actually charge you to buy crypto. It's ridiculous. You're getting ripped off by exchanges. Big time in regards to buying crypto. ETFs, ETNs are actually cheaper. Yeah, okay, it takes away the kind of self-custody aspect, but if you're looking at it from an investment point of view, they can often be a better option. So, really I'm showing this, and I'm showing the S&P's positioning, more broadly Bitcoins, which is doing exactly what we said it would. It's on the cusp of breaking out into new all-time highs, or has, like we said it would, on the back end of this falling wedge, which we got very right. You know, Bitcoin, in my opinion, is on the cusp of embarking to high ground, despite everything going on. And I think there's people in the know, more so than not, in these situations that, again, often have their hands in markets. I think if this was to lead to what the news headlines and people on Twitter would have you believe, or other platforms, you would see that reflected in the markets. You're not seeing it. I think markets are going to continue higher, and we're kind of trying to stay as neutral as possible and look at this through the context of markets. As I'm sure you can appreciate, guys, a very tough situation that I need to be careful with. For people on both sides of the argument, you know, we want to look at things from a market perspective. Talking about what we spoke about at the start, Christine Lagarde, in my interview, I spoke about the importance of international cooperation, digital currencies, and green finance, and more. Now, Christine Lagarde, just the other day, and I'll actually go on her page because we'll be able to find it, spoke at the People's Bank of China. Okay, you can see this here on the 14th of June. And one thing that she spoke about was Bretton Woods. We'll go ahead and bring it up. And remember that ECB have published quite a few reports now. She talks about global tensions. She talks about the US dollar and its convertibility into gold. And then obviously what took place in the kind of second Bretton Woods, if you will, and the Nixon shock. And the lead up to that. And she talks about where we kind of are today. and the fact that something similar is coming. And Jerome Powell, coincidentally, just happened to talk about the exact same thing. So another moment like that is happening, and money itself, and even if you're not into crypto, you should care about this because you use money undoubtedly, is about to change. And we're going to enter this kind of era of the internet of value, which essentially is similar to the internet that we have today, but for value. You know, value is often the systems that we use in regards to sending value globally are broken in the sense that they're very fragmented, and what you're going to get with DLTs is a unified sort of internet where value can be sent anywhere and everywhere. And actually, that's coming, and that's coming at a time, or the technology is here to now enable that at a time when the financial system, as it is ready to kind of go, okay, this hasn't worked, let's try something else, or we need to try something else and innovate. And you can see that, and we looked at this on Friday with some of the moves that gold's making. I think silver's going to go $300 plus. I've been saying that for a long time now. Certainly, we've been very right on our predictions on gold. Bitcoin also benefits from that. And actually, I think more broadly, the cryptocurrencies that enable this new system are going to be worth trillions of dollars potentially. You know, you could see $1-2 trillion market cap cryptocurrencies that today I believe are a few hundred billion, if not a few tens of billions. There's a real opportunity here. Lynn Alden highlighting that gold has recently overtook the euro as the second reserve currency. This is all signaling of something that's happening. And again, Christine Lagarde highlighting problems with our system. Jerome Powell doing the same thing. Bitcoin was introduced to us at too much of a perfect time. And I think more broadly than that, DLTs are really going to enable this. And that's why I say now's the perfect time to be interested in crypto. And despite that, this is from Cointelegraph, Google search interest for Bitcoin is now at the same level as when Bitcoin's price was at 16,000. It's at 106 today. And there is some interesting on-chain metrics in regards to bull markets and wallet addresses, and they typically grow during a bull market period. It's natural to suspect that. Actually, during this move that Bitcoin's been having, the opposite has been true, which means it's more concentrated and likely just all going into BlackRock and the ETF's hands. And this is the irony of Bitcoin maxis promoting this stuff whilst trying to be for Satoshi's vision. It's not Satoshi's vision that's being followed in any way, shape, or form at the moment. And I do think Bitcoin's more of a Trojan horse in regards to a global system that's ahead of us. And talking about that global system that's ahead of us, I want to dive over to BlackRock's COO, and what he has to say about bringing traditional capital markets into the digital world will redefine the next decade, or define the next decade. Larry Fink's also signaled this. This is only going to happen, and they're already doing it, on chain and on public distributed ledgers. You are going to have privacy layers, you are going to have all this stuff, but the internet is public. They tried to do it privately, and it didn't work, because how can you enable and have that global participation? It needs to be public, just like the internet. And public DLTs win over private ones all day long. Otherwise, all we're doing is introducing the same problems that we have with the traditional financial system today in regards to its fragmented nature. So let's dive into BlackRock's COO and what he has to say, and then we're going to talk about Bitcoin in relation to the bond market, and then I may or may not depress you guys with UK potential tax rises that are coming, which Rachel Reeves has not been able to signal out. So let's dive into BlackRock's COO and what he has to say.
What advice would you give to, sort of the rest of the financial universe that are thinking about getting into this space now?
It's a great question. I think from our lens, it's what I'm going to say is going to be very simple. Executing it is extremely hard. So I recognize that. But to us, it's very basic. You basically have a new set of exposures. Mm-hmm. The real utility in Unlock is to be able to put them in the whole portfolio. And interestingly enough, I think you could turn the telescope around also and say, ultimately, how do you put these capital markets exposures in digital wallets? And how do you go? So if you think about the bridge strategy of this alternate digital asset universe and bringing it to the capital markets, I think it's naive to assume, and this doesn't have to be in a month, but if you look out over time, it's naive to assume that you don't also have to think through how do you bring the traditional capital markets to this alternative universe. And I think both connection points will define the next decade.
I couldn't agree more. And the best example of it, by the way, was the ETFs. So we got all thrown a curveball in the last minute. There were no in-kind creates. And so we were forced to try and figure out how to make old world meet new world, right? And so hopefully in the next version thereof, we're going to have more of a synthesis of those two things. So yeah, you're spot on. I agree with that.
BlackRock is the largest sort of hedge fund, financial institution in the world. And they're nobody's hiding any of this anymore. So do hang in there, guys. We've gone on for 15 minutes now. I was going to talk about $300 trillion bond market, in which there's a problem with. The emperor's kind of realized he's naked at this point, and how crypto fits into all of this through potentially making it more appealing through issuing it as money once again, or using it for that. There's a lot going on, a hell of a lot going on, geopolitically, financially, socially, technologically. We will try our best to keep you guys at the kind of pinnacle of it all. It's easier said than done. One thing I'm certain of is that this technology is going to play a major role in tomorrow's world. Ladies and gents, that is it from me. It's nice to speak to you guys all again. I've truly missed you. I hope you guys have missed me, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you soon.